Well, David A.R. White's first big break in Hollywood came when he was cast in the hit TV show Evening Shade. He was punched and then later fired by his Hollywood dad, Burt Reynolds, but that didn't stop him from chasing his God-given dream. Take a look.
David A.R. White is one of the most recognizable actors in faith-based films. He's best known for his role in the God's Not Dead series. As a kid, David always wanted to be in the movies, but those goals didn't quite line up with his religious upbringing.
I was raised as a Mennonite in a small town outside of Dodge City, Kansas. And if you don't know what a Mennonite is, the Mennonites make the Mormons look like a pack of Hell's Angels.
In his book, Between Heaven and Hollywood, David shares how he made it from Kansas to California and how he overcame the roadblocks to success without giving up on his faith.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club, David A.R. White. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me again.
Listen, the weird thing to me isn't just that you went from the Mennonite upbringing to the Hollywood scene. It's that as a Mennonite child who hardly ever watched TV, you even had a desire to act. I mean, that's just a little strange, isn't it?
It is a little strange. You know, I'm a firm believer that God puts these kernels of an idea, these seeds inside of our hearts, and it's amazing to see what He will do with them. And I think I'm like the least likely guy who should have left the farm and moved to Hollywood, you know, and gone into the entertainment industry. So
you really spend a lot of time in your book. It's called, by the way, Between Heaven and Hollywood, evaluating that whole process of God speaking to your heart, the desire being there, the choices, right, wrong, and indifferent that you made along the pathway. Why do you think so many people miss the mark on what God created them for?
I think ultimately we allow so much fear, we allow so much self-doubt to come into our, to worlds. Life is not easy. I don't, and when we wrote the book, I didn't want it to be just a, hey, you have a simple dream, great, you go out and you'll accomplish the world, and there won't be any hardships or trials or tribulations along the way. If anything, I just wanted to encourage people that take a look at what's inside of you, and there's all kinds of different ways about how do you know if a dream is truly from God, or is it something just self-motivating?
I want to talk to you about that after we talk about a couple of other things. I mean, it wasn't like you had your parents' support. You were a PK, preacher's kid, and I mean, everybody in your family kind of was saying, Dave, what are you doing?
Yeah, they did. I mean, I really only told my parents once that I wanted to go be an actor or go into the entertainment industry. I know.
Nice boy.
That's exactly it. I was 14, and my father was born in '36, and he was from that, and then being a Mennonite pastor, he didn't really understand it, and he said, well, you don't know how to sing and you don't know how to dance, so how are you going to be an actor?
I love that.
And
you went, oh, yeah.
I was like, yeah, you're right. Well, I'm a Mennonite, Dad. How am I supposed to dance? No thanks to you. But ultimately, it wasn't until, and then I told a librarian one time, and she actually spoke life into me.
I love that. I mean, she wasn't even somebody who really knew you.
Yeah.
And she affirmed you.
Mrs. Thomas, I got to say thank you, Mrs. Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely. Go, Mrs. Thomas, wherever you are.
She was like the only one who I really opened up once, and I said, I desire this. And she said, I think you should follow your dreams and you should go for it.
But let's talk about that a minute, because, it was a far-fetched dream. I mean, I think lots of people have far-fetched dreams that sometimes you also quote a friend who had a dream in here, and you said, what happened along the way? And he said, well, I grew up.
Yeah.
That was kind of poignant and sad as I read that. But you hung on. How did you do that? I mean, Hollywood, if you have to talk about the place that's going to slap you into reality, I'm going to say Hollywood. How did you hang on through all of that?
My parents instilled in me at an early age a love for the Lord and a foundation. And I think, people always say, and people say, they say, is it hard to be a Christian in Hollywood? I actually find the opposite. I think it's easier to be a Christian or a person of faith in Hollywood because you have a foundation to which your life is built on. Yeah. And it allows you, when those things come at you, Hollywood certainly is, the title Between Heaven hell normally is what you say, but Hollywood's just, you just rotate those out. It comes at you with a lot of things, but if you are built on that foundation, then you have somewhere to go. And that's when I asked my parents to leave Bible school at 19, and actually I was 18, to go to Hollywood. My dad said, David, as long as you serve the Lord and keep him first in whatever you do, then we support you.
And you really hung on to your faith in an amazingly tenacious way. And yet, after so much discouragement, it's almost like the author who just gets rejection after rejection after rejection. You had a little time where you sort of strayed off into the wilderness. What was the turning point for you, both spiritually and career-wise?
To come back? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, what actually moved you that way? No. It was interesting. I was doing a movie called Mercy Streets at the time. And Mercy Streets, I was playing, if you haven't seen it, it's actually a great movie. It's I played twins, a preacher, and a con man. And they were separated at the, and it's a great movie, and it was before its time. But during that film, I was really coming back out of my dry spell, basically, of, my desert, of like, did I believe what I believed because of, was it real? Was it, or was it just instilled at me at an early age? And so, and in that film, they always say life imitates art in so many different ways. And for me, I made a choice at that point. Was I going to be a con man, or was I going to be a preacher, so to speak? Wow. And that's where my life turned around, and really I was like, Lord, I'm sorry for for doubting. I'm sorry for going through all of this stuff, and I humble myself. I bend my knee before you, which I try to do every day now, and say, Lord, you take my life. You do with it what you will. Amen. And if you do that, I believe if you follow God's dream for your life, then you will not fail.
So let's get to that. How do you know if a dream is from God or not? Some people have dreams that are so far-fetched, you are thinking, don't do that to yourself. Yeah. But you hung with it. How do you know if it's from God?
First thing I always say is your dream bigger than you? Yeah. Because as kids, we have all these dreams growing up, what happens? We chop them down into very manageable, small proportions, ultimately, so we don't get disappointed. And then we tell our own kids, and we do it to them because we don't want them to be disappointed as parents. But it's like the reverse of what we should do. Our God is the author of bigness, not littleness. We should set higher goals, not lower goals, and you'll be amazed to see what he does. And I think if your dream is that way, God doesn't want you to accomplish things in your own strength. He wants you to accomplish them with his strength. And that's the first order.
But he's got to kill us first.
He's got to kill you. There's no doubt about it. You got to go up on that.
Get up on that cross.
Sacrificial.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And then if you can't let it go, that's the other side. It's like, can you let that thing go? And people come up to me all the time and say, should I be an actor? Should I go into the entertainment industry? And I always say, well, if you can think of anything else to do and be happy, you should do that, because that's not an easy path to go. But if you can't let that thing go that's inside of you, then there's a good chance that it's from the Lord. Yeah. Keep him first.
The book is a fascinating account of your own personal journey, but woven throughout it, great nuggets of wisdom for all of us. And we're all on a journey. It's all a God adventure, and how we get to where we get to. It's much more than we've talked about here. And so I want to encourage you to get a hold of it. The new book is called Heaven and Hollywood, In Between Heaven and Hollywood. And it's available now in bookstores. Plus, you can hear more from David in our web-exclusive behind-the-scenes interview. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/700club and check it out. Great to have you here again.
Thank you.
God bless you. We didn't even get to God's Not Dead. We did that last time. Yeah.
Exactly.